Hey guys, welcome to the RAMZPAUL show. It is Monday, February 10th. It's great to be here with you. I just got my notification on Rumble that we are live on Rumble now. Yes, we are. And I want to do a shout out to everyone watching me on Rumble. I like the Rumble platform. And if you have a question or a comment you want to give me on Rumble, they have an equivalent of a super chat called a rant. I'm also on YouTube here, and YouTube has super chats. And there's Powerchats below if you have a question or a comment. And on Stream Elements, there's a link in the description. That's another way to do a tip feature. So I appreciate your feedback and comments. It's a way to support the show. Because unlike Politico or Vosh, I don't get any USAID money. No USAID money for this guy. That didn't happen. I'm not like the BBC that's on the taxpayer dole. I count on your support, which I like because it keeps me more independent. Because once people start giving you money, they want there's always strings attached. That's the problem when you get the big donors and these institutions. So I think, and I agree with Elon Musk, we should just get all of taxpayer money out of all the media. We don't need to fund the BBC or Voice of America. I mean, for God's sakes, as Elon Musk said, Voice of America was set up during the Cold War because these people under communism, they had no idea of the outside world. So we had the secret Voice of America try to tell them about blue jeans and McDonald's and all the wonderful things and surfer girls. And, they're in the ugly, dreary communism. And that was the idea of Voice of America. I imagine like on ham radio, secretly in Czechoslovakia, you're trying to get to the Voice of America. Hopefully the political commissars don't see you. Well, that was like, how many years ago was that when that fell? You see, it's been like 30 years now, or come on. I don't think we need to fund that anymore. We don't need to fund Politico. Oh, we didn't get any money from the government. They just bought 8,000 subscriptions to our product. Yeah. So guys, if USAID, if they still existed, if you want to give subscriptions, I do have a Substack, and I do appreciate that. It's a way to support me. But if you're not part of the USAID and you want to be part of my, I do a daily column that's free to the public every day. Except on Friday, I do it exclusive to my members. So there's no reason not to sign up for it. Let me just copy and paste this link here. Substack's a nice tool. I'm moving off Gumroad and going to Substack. A little bit more robust. Also, if you're on the Substack, every Tuesday night, we do a round table. It's a lot of fun. They're really popular. And we have a lot of really fun people, K-Max McDonald's usually shows up. This guy named Dylan, he goes sometimes by 009. He's real funny. A guy named Sal. I mean, there's so many others I'm probably going to forget, but they're all really great. And so you can watch that, or you can even join, be part of that. So join, I really do appreciate that. And so I'm great. I'm really happy to be back on my morning shows. I got a lot of feedback. People were missing those. So I do a morning show now Monday through Thursday at 11 a.m. Central on both YouTube, Rumble, and X. If you haven't followed me on X, follow me on X. I do quite a bit of updates. I kind of go in spurts. I get in moments where I want to tweet. Sometimes I get busy and don't, but follow me on there. And I open my DM. So if you have a question, you can send me a DM. And I mentioned the Substack. Oh, and then Fridays, I do the show at 8 p.m. and it's kind of a caller where you could call in, ask questions. Last week, we had 3 or 4 people called in. That was really good. I really enjoyed that. So I'm going to keep that going on Friday nights. And then we have Night Owls. That's kind of an ad hoc show I do with Sasha. Once we get our schedules more finalized and she moves into the house, should be by the end of the month, we will probably have a regular schedule. Because, Sasha works for a living in the evenings, so we got to kind of work around that. But we did it last night, and it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. We went over movies and that sort of thing. So check that out too. Okay. And it's got cold again. It warmed up last week, but this week is supposed to be cold here in Arkansas. There's a 60% chance it's going to snow today. So I'm ready for spring already. I get tired by February. And yeah, we're officially over winter. The Super Bowl was yesterday. It's a big cultural tradition in America. I used to get into it more when I was younger, and I don't know why exactly. Well, there's probably a few reasons, but when I was a kid, I was a Denver Bronco fan. But even if the Broncos didn't get to the Super Bowl, which they usually didn't because they sucked, I would root for a team and I would follow all the hype coming, 2 weeks prior to the game. And as I got older, I just kind of faded away from that. And I remember the 90s, they have Super Bowl parties with people at work I would go to. And even people like women that didn't really care for football, they like to have the party, the chip stip, the whole thing. I don't know. I just got out of doing that. And yesterday, I didn't watch any of the game. I had just no interest. And part of it is no one looks like me. I mean, it's two teams, both black quarterbacks. I don't know. It just doesn't interest me. And I didn't really care if Kansas City won or the Eagles. I didn't have any interest in that. Although it was good to see, I guess, Kansas City lose because Taylor Swift just is a big Kansas City fan because she's dating one of the football players. Let's take a look at this. Trump was at the game. I didn't know. He was the first president to attend the Super Bowl.
That would be history already in the building tonight, as President Donald Trump becomes the first sitting U.S. president ever to attend a Super Bowl game live. When we come back, we'll make our official...
I would have thought other presidents would have been there. Joe Biden, obviously, he wouldn't go because he was too tired and infirmed. But I would have thought some other presidents would have gone. And I'm not going to counter football too much, sports ball. I know a lot of people in our circles do that, but it's part of our culture. I get it. It's sort of like people, you should never go to movies because they're all degenerate. Well, somewhat, but at the same time, part of the culture is who we are. And I don't know if we can just totally isolate from all of that. So while I didn't watch the game, I think it was a good idea that Trump was there. And I think he was like more popular than Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift actually got booed at the Super Bowl. They showed her and everyone was like, woo! So there's becoming a backlash against Taylor Swift. Oh, how the tables have turned. Remember she gave the endorsement to Kamala Harris? I don't know if she gave the endorsement for free, because as we found out, all these actors, as we've always known, they're basically whores and prostitutes. They're up for the highest bidder. And like Oprah and all these people that gave their endorsements to Kamala, you think they did that for free? They wanted millions of dollars to endorse her, and they paid it. It's just crazy. So I don't know if Taylor Swift, she's like worth $1 billion. Why do you need even more, right? So I don't know if Kamala paid her to endorse her, but that was supposed to be the game changer. Remember that? And it didn't help at all. And now she's getting booed and Donald Trump was cheered. What a change. What a change in America over just a few years. So it was good to see her booed. I don't necessarily hate Taylor Swift. I just got really tired of her. I don't, I'm not a teenage girl, so I don't follow her, but I don't know. I'm happy she got booed here. All right. And yesterday we had some news, and this news I'm starting to like. Some of Trump's ideas, I was like, I don't know, but this one, why not? So let's watch this here. This was on Air Force One. He has an office on the plane.
And we're flying right over it right now. So we thought this would be appropriate. Even bigger than the Super Bowl. This is a big thing. And almost everybody now has assented to that.
Attention on board. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please direct your attention out the right side of the aircraft. Air Force One is currently in international waters, for the first time in history, flying over the recently renamed Gulf of America. Please enjoy the flight, and we are now about to head westbound to Super Bowl 59.
Wow, he did that well.
Gulf of America. I like it. I like how it sounds. I've always known it as Gulf of Mexico, but Mexico is technically part of the Americas. So America makes more sense. And I think there's more coastline on the Gulf of America from the United States to Mexico. So it kind of makes sense. And I know it's just symbolic, but words matter and symbols matter. The left knows this. This is why they attack our words. They try to police our speech. They tear down our statues, tear down our flags. Not all of our flags. They still have one right over there. It's important to keep those symbols, though. They understand that. Symbols and words are important. So I think this was, even though it's symbolic, I like it. Gulf of America.
Make America great again, right? That's what we care about. Okay, here we go. So this is a famous pen now.
So Gulf of America. I like it. We need to rename some more things in the world. So the Gulf of America, and it's no longer Denali Peak. It's Mount McKinley, the way it should be. So Trump did that. Then one of my favorite cabinet members of the Trump administration is Stephen Miller. And yes, he is. Oh, no. But he's like the most base guy there. Let's listen to him here. He had some good talking points about supposed unelected officials like Elon Musk. So let's take a look at this here. Listen to Stephen Miller.
The Democrat use of the term unelected is really quite remarkable here. Donald Trump was elected in an overwhelming landslide. These are Donald Trump staffers.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. And I haven't watched this clip, and we're going to get into this. But the Democrats, they really want an unelected deep state, like we saw with USAID. In fact, there's a federal judge trying to keep this going. They want a whole department that is unaccountable to Congress or to the president. So we as voters have no way of changing it. So if they want to fund, let's say, transgender opera in Colombia, and I'm not making that up to be funny. That was actually funded by USAID, one of the organizations. Transgender opera in Colombia. There's no way that you, as an American citizen, have a way to stop that. Congress has no control over them. And now the federal judge is saying, well, the president doesn't have any control of them. Like, what the hell? I thought we have three branches of government. At least when I was in school, you have Congress, which is supposed to be elected by your representatives. The president, that's elected technically by the states through electorals. You vote in the state, and the state electors go to Washington. And then you have the judges, which are appointed by the president, confirmed by Congress. That's our system of government. You're not supposed to have this fourth USAID that is accountable to no one. So it is kind of strange. But obviously, within your staff, you're able to hire staff that they're not elected. And that's what Donald Trump is doing.
In the sense, like saying that Mike Walls, the national security advisor, is unelected, or Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, is unelected, or Donald Trump's communications team is unelected. This is presidential staff that serves at the pleasure and for the president, just as I do. I am a staffer for the president of the United States. He is elected. He is the one the American people have chosen to implement his agenda. This is the agenda the American people voted for, that he is asking his staff, his subordinates, his employees to implement. The unelected power in this country is the rogue bureaucracy. USAID is...
I hadn't even watched this, but Stephen Miller saying the exact same thing I am.
Unelected. The FBI that persecuted President Trump for 8 years is unelected. The CIA and those who have laundered intelligence to try to change the foreign policy of the United States are unelected. President Trump is restoring democracy by controlling the federal bureaucracy. There is one man in the country who is elected by the whole American people to implement an agenda they support. That is the president. Every other officer in this country, members of Congress and senators, are elected at the state or local level.
Let me ask you.
The
let me ask you
Constitution
something,
puts one man in charge of the federal executive branch, and that's the president.
Right. And if the president is unable to control his executive branch, then what's the point of electing someone? And Trump brought this up, and this is, I think this will eventually go to the Supreme Court. And I'm not getting too black-pilled about this, the recent federal court. You know they're going to get some corrupt federal judge to implement this because they want to, the deep state is going to fight back. They don't want that to go away. And what I mean by the deep state is this big, vast bureaucracy that's accountable to no, it's not accountable to the voters, either through Congress, the Congress has no idea what they're doing, or the president. And technically, the way it was set up was under the executive branch. USAID was set up by Congress, well, approved by Congress in 1961 under the presidency, very similar to the Treasury Department. It was in between the State Department, the CIA, Department of Defense. You had the U.S. Agency for International Development. It reports to the president. And if president doesn't have any control over that, then why are we voting? And that was a common refrain that has some merit. Like, it's a waste of time to vote because who's ever president is more symbolic figure. They don't really have a lot of power. And this deep state that's not elected, these high paying, they get 300, 400,000 a year. There's no way to hold them accountable. They can't be fired. They have endless access to our money. We have no way to stop it. But constitutionally, there needs to be. Otherwise, it's not really a democracy. And I'm not a huge, like, oh, I love democracy. I don't. But if you're going to have a democracy, it's supposed to be the will of the people. And there should be a way for us as citizens to hold these people accountable. And the way it is, there is a way, is to vote for the president. Donald Trump won. So he responds to the American people. He gets to implement his policies. And so there's this real fight because a lot of these bureaucrats of what we call the blob or the deep state, they're like, no, we're beyond any accountability. We just do what we want. And it's really coming to a head here. And when Trump was going to the Super Bowl, when he was signing, like Gulf of America, let me just show you guys this. He was asked about this and he brought up some points here.
A couple of court losses, Mr. President, and J.D. Vance said judges aren't allowed to control the executive power. What's your take on that?
Well, we're going to see what happens. We have a long way to go. And
yeah, J.D. Vance, by the way, has been the most based politician in the administration. Maybe Stephen Miller. We're really fortunate that this time Trump, instead of being around Ivanka and Jared Kushner and those types, he has people that are really influencing him. J.D. Vance, again, I personally like him. He's from the stock of a lot of people I know, the people that founded this country. He grew up poor. He's kind of a Scots-Irish background, grew up in Appalachia, and is really a success story. Very intelligent man. Obviously, he's well-spoken. He went to Yale, but more than that, I know he's read like 4chan and Poll, and he knows a lot of our material. And if you hear him speak, he talks a lot about what our points are. For example, America's just not an idea, it's a people. Now, I get it. He's married to an Indian woman. He's not some white nationalist, racial purist. You're not going to find that in the Trump administration. But most of what we would have called the old alt-right ideas before it got hijacked, by the Daily Stormer, he's really implementing. He kind of embodies that. Elon Musk is very much the same way. They're both young, they're both intelligent, and I think that they're helping Trump a lot. So J.D. Vance is saying, well, wait a minute, some random judge doesn't have the right constitutionally shut down the executive branch.
we're talking about fraud, waste, abuse. And when a president can't look for fraud and waste and abuse, we don't have a country anymore. So we're very disappointed with the judges that would make such a ruling. But we have a long way to go. We have to find all of the fraud that's going on. We have tremendous fraud, tremendous waste, and tremendous abuse. and theft, by the way. And the day you're not allowed to look for theft and fraud, etc., then we don't have much of a country. So no judge should frankly be allowed to make that kind of a decision. It's a disgrace.
I think what's going to happen here is the Trump administration with Stephen Miller and others, again, there's a lot of really smart people. They're really looking long-term to drive the stake in the heart of the whole deep state apparatus that has built up over decades. It really has. And obviously, I listen to Z-Man all the time. He's talked a lot about how it developed, the history. It really started, you could say, with LBJ, the Great Society. Nixon pushed back, and then he got pushed out. And then it just became part of our government, and it has just grown. And a lot of the presidents, again, they're more symbolic figures. Like Obama, he mostly just checked out. He just watched basketball on ESPN. And he once quipped, like, why should I bother to read my material? Because it doesn't really matter. They're going to do what they want to do. And Joe Biden, obviously, that guy had dementia. He didn't know what he was doing, but it didn't really matter. So you have this permanent political clash in Washington, D.C. that's not elected. They don't change from Republican or Democrat, and they just do whatever the hell they want. There's no accountability. So the president and his administration, I think they're looking for a case that they can bring to the Supreme Court that will clarify, no, we don't have 4 branches of government. We have 3, right? The executive, the judiciary, and Congress. We don't have the blob as another unelected piece of government. And I think they are going to look for a case that specifies that, yes, Congress has authority to fund everything, which is specified in the Constitution. But in the executive branch, the president has control over items, obviously, in the executive branch. It's be like if you're the CEO of a company and there's some rogue department. Let's say there's a rogue department in the company. You take over the company, and this rogue department says, nah, fuck you. We're not going to do what you want, CEO. We're going to still spend our money and do what we want. We're not going to downsize. We're not going to change our direction. We're just going to do what we're doing. And even though CEO owns the company, they're like, nah, we're not doing this. Obviously, in the private sector, it sounds ridiculous because you just fire them and then hire new people. But the problem is a lot of these people, the civil servants, they're not civil or servants, but you can't hardly fire them. They're embedded. So they're really trying to root this out. And this is one of the most important aspects of the Trump administration, is to put a stake in the heart of the deep state. Because if he's able to do that, it will eliminate 90% of this woke funding, because we're finding out wokeness is not very popular. It's all been astroturfed all this time, meaning there's been a small group of people that have been pushing stuff on our country and other countries that they know is harmful. I think a lot of them know it's harmful, but that's why they're doing it. And they understand it's not popular, but they grab control of the apparatus, especially the deep state and the media. And they decided, hey, we can't get people to fund, let's have like a funding of so mothers can sterilize their boys because they're born in the wrong body. There's no support for that, really. So they had to go the end around by having these NGOs, and they got their funding from you, even though you didn't realize it. And they want that to continue, because without the funding, they would have to raise their own money. But the problem is, people don't want to pay for that sort of stuff. It's not popular. They want to be able to raise money. It's not like they can do a GoFundMe, because everyone's like, no, that's just gross. That's horrific. I'm not going to fund that. So that's why they had to set up these NGOs, get money through USAID, and then they could even get money via corporations, because the corporations, they didn't know exactly what they're funding. They'd give their money to United Way, who would siphon some of the money to these other evil groups that would do, let's say, child sex changes. That is how it's all set up. That's how Antifa got their funding, where they had the prosecutors. Soros, we always blame Soros, and he was behind a lot of it. But it turns out he wasn't directly funding a lot of this. He was getting your tax dollars to fund it. So this is a key thing that we are really going to have to fight one of the key things of the Trump administration is to try to fight to make this kill it. Otherwise, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful they can. I never thought it was possible, but we got really sharp people in that really are trying to do this. And J.D. Vance, if Trump is successful and he's popular, J.D. Vance will probably be the president then for 8 years after Trump. So this will be 12 years, hopefully, of getting in good judges, putting some more in the Supreme Court that are good, defunding a lot of this woke shit. And then one of the things that happens is a lot of times people are social animals, especially women, but men too, but especially women. They don't want to be outside of the group. So if they see everyone else saying, oh yeah, child sex changes, that's a good thing. That's trans affirming care. We need to give that. Even though they may have misgivings about it, if they see everyone else nodding and saying it's a good thing, they tend to follow along. But the minute it falls apart where people no longer see it as good, then it's like the scales are removed from their eyes. And it's like, oh my God, what have we done? And by the way, this is going to create a lot of drama and people's minds are going to break. People that have sexually mutilated their children because really what was a fad? And we're going to look back on what do you mean born in the wrong body? What the fuck were you thinking, you monster? And it's going to be hard for a lot of people to accept what happened. We kind of saw that with COVID a little bit, how people were duped. And it really broke a lot of minds. And I think this whole wokeness, when we look back on it, we're going to see that people were just duped because of a psyop, especially people that are weaker minded. Not you guys, but a lot of people, they just follow what the media tells them. And they're going to realize it was all a lie. And looking back on it, it will look stupid. Like, how did we ever believe a man wearing a dress is a woman? That's just ridiculous. So we should have never believed that. And in the future, I think people look back, no, really, they did it. They really thought a man with a penis and a beard wearing a dress, masturbating in a woman's restroom was really a woman? Really? Yeah. And if you didn't say so, you would get censored. In England, you could get arrested if you didn't believe that. And people are like, no, that couldn't have happened. This sounds like something out of a dystopian novel, a science fiction dystopia. And it's like, no, it's actually happening. So I think we're going to see that. Here's J.D. Vance, so he's really good. If a judge tried to tell a general how to conduct a military operation, that would be illegal. If a judge tried to commit the attorney general and how to use her discretion as a prosecutor, that's illegal. Judges aren't allowed to control the executive's legitimate power. I agree. If I was Trump, I would just ignore the order because I don't think the judge has proper authority. And I think that's they need to go forward. And just so you know what this is, let me explain it to you. It has to do this judge. Oh, I got a super chat. Thank you. There's only one way. This is Lucas T. Thank you. Is there any way the Democrats can reverse course on that transgender issue? It's not like they can just apologize after people hurt their children. Yeah, the Democrats, and a lot of people that are in the Democrat Party that wish the best for the Democrats, they're kind of trapped by their woke extremists, and they realize that Stephen Smith, who I don't really care for, but he's a black commentator on ESPN, he wants to run for president. And he's been critiquing the Democrats like, well, the reason you folks don't win is because you think men can give birth and stuff like that. It's just like common sense things that the Democrats used to support, more of what you would say typically socialist policies. Not that I agree with that, but because they just got this really hyper identitarianism and just stupidness of all millions of pronouns and all this child sex change stuff, and we need men wearing dresses to go into the schools to read to children. It was just a bridge too far. The problem is how do they get rid of that without appearing transphobic, right? Or all the phobias that they invent. And I don't see any sign in the core party. If you saw the Democratic National Convention, they were trying to elect their new leadership. And it dissolved into a clown show. They were all debating about, well, how do we do the voting? We got to have the gender balance. But then what's a woman? What's a girl? What's non-binary? What's a two-spirit elf? They had all this weird stuff. And it looked like a parody, but it was real. I mean, they're in total disarray. And part of the whole problem with this wokeness, with liberal democracy, is sort of late stage liberal democracy. It's a problem very similar to what happened to communism at the end. The whole premise of communism was wrong. And the premise of communism basically was you will just work as hard for other people as you will work for yourself. And that's just not the case. People aren't wired that way. You're not going to risk money and risk time, develop cool things if you're not going to get rewarded. But they thought the communists could change human nature. So you just give to everyone else. So whatever you produce is just equally distributed to everyone. Because why it doesn't work. So if you busted your butt off in communism, work hard, and produced a lot, you would not get any more than some bum that just goofed off all day and didn't do anything. You would both get the same pay. And that's the problem. Because then the person that's actually working hard and producing is like, well, why am I a sucker? That guy's just goofing off all day. He gets the same salary as I do. I'm just going to goof off. Why should I bust my butt? There's no reward in it. That fundamentally is the issue with communism. I mean, if you get down to the core. So it was based on a misunderstanding of human behavior, and they were trying to get it to work, and it would never work. The only way they could get kind of communism to sort of work is to introduce some capitalist concepts. And so the Soviets did that. They had like unofficial capitalist markets, the black market, that allowed things to be produced. And some countries like China, the Communist Party's still in charge, but they abandoned communism. They basically have capitalism now. So the system just didn't work. And by the late 80s, it collapsed on itself because there was internal contradictions. It was based on a premise that just wouldn't work. You can't get that to work if it's the wrong premise. You can't make it work because that's not humans are. We don't work as hard for other people as we do for ourselves and our family. You can say, and you can't reshape people. Liberal democracy, they ran into the same problem, and we're seeing the collapse now of, I think, maybe the start of a change with Trump and Vance and a lot of others, of the collapse of liberal democracy and wokeness. Wokeness was the late stage attribute of it. And its premise, like communism had the wrong premise of human behavior, wokeism has at its premise an error that all people are equal. We're all the same. It doesn't matter if you're a man or if you're a woman or if you're African or European. You take a savage from New Guinea, it's the same as a man from Norway. We're all equal. We all bleed red. Everything's just a social construct, and everyone can be trained to be the same. And if there's any group differences, it has to be because of sexism or racism or transphobia or whatever. And so that's how they look at what they call equity. Because if you just put people in and compete, you're not going to get equal outcomes. Some people are going to do better than others. And like communism, they're like, no, that's not fair. Obviously, someone's cheating. Someone has white supremacy or white privilege. So we got to try to fix it. Just like the communists tried to do. Exact same thing. And it doesn't work. In a sense, wokeism is sort of cultural communism. But it's based on a false premise that you could put people that really aren't qualified to a job into the job because it improves your diversity. Because for some reason, they determine that diversity is good. Diversity is a strength. They never explain how that is, but they just took it as an assumption it is. So for example, if you had testing and you took all the top people, you don't look at the race or the sex of air traffic controllers, and if it happened to be all white men, well, that's fine. That's based on merit, then that's good. That's what you should have. But according to this other wokeness, oh no, that's a horrible problem. There's too much whiteness. We got to fix this. And the way we fix this is through DEI and make sure we keep some of the qualified white people out, so we have more blacks and we have more Hispanics and Asians. Makes it look like a modern Hollywood movie, right? Always got a kick of those modern television when they show like a gang, to be a white guy in the gang, a black, an Asian, a Latino. I expected to see some transgender in a wheelchair. It's this fantasy that they make. It's like their vision of Star Trek. But they try to push that on a nation, and it doesn't work because eventually things fall apart because it's based on a fundamental error. So I think that's what we're seeing right there. The Trump administration, for this executive order to prevent them from looking at what they control, the Treasury, the Trump administration files an emergency motion to vacate the temporary restraining order, which prohibits political appointees from accessing Treasury Department databases. This is outrageous that a judge would rule that, because this is under the president. He can delegate who he wants to look into the matter. It's not like Donald Trump's going to put on the green eye shade and go looking at the books. That's why he hires professionals to do that. They don't want people to look at the books, though. That's the problem. They want the spending spree to continue without any oversight. And that is... it is really kind of crazy how that has developed. And some of the stuff that's not done in the government is just, I don't know how they get away from an audit point of view. You'd probably go to prison in the private sector if you did this. And Elon Musk is just flabbergasted that anyone could run something in such a way. Let's take a look at this. To be clear, what the Doge and the U.S. Treasury have jointly agreed on makes sense as the following. We require that all outgoing government payments have a categorization code, which is necessary in order to pass financial audits. This is frequently left blank, making audits almost impossible. This is what Donald Trump, remember, he got convicted of felonies based on this, because when he paid that money to Stormy Daniels, what they called the hush money, that wasn't illegal, but they categorized it as a legal expense, not a campaign expense. I think it was categorized right. But the point is, when you do books, you need to categorize your expenses. But the government, even though they have that field, the deep state, they say, oh, fuck it. We're not even going to fill out that field. We'll just take the money and do with what we want. All payments must also include a rationale for the payment in the comment field, which is currently left blank. Importantly, we are not yet applying any judgment to this rationale, but simply requiring that some attempt be made to explain the payment, more than nothing. So Elon Musk are getting into the books. They're seeing all these payments. There's a field that says, what type of payment is this? Is this a administrative expense? Is this a legal expense? Is this a medical expense? We have to do that on our taxes. I'm preparing our taxes to get to our guy. Sasha had a bunch of, let's say, medical expenses last year. And so that's classified as a medical expense. That's how you do it. We as individuals do that. But USAID, they're like, yeah, fuck you. We're not going to put that field in that field. And then it's like a payment. Okay, here's $10 million to something. There's no category field that's filled out. And the comment, like, why are you spending this money? That's left blank. So there's $10 million that was spent, but you have no idea why. And the idea that they should have to be told why they're spending the money. Oh, you fascist. Oh, he's attacking government. And here's another one. The do not pay list of entities known to be fraudulent or people who are dead or probable fronts for terrorist organizations do not match congressional appropriations, must actually be implemented and not ignored. Also, it can take up to a year to get on the list, which is far too long. And then yesterday I was told there are currently over 100 billion a year. That's a lot. That's like 1/10 of a trillion of entitlement payments to individuals with no social security number or even temporary ID numbers. So again, why are we paying money? But for example, social security payments or other type of payments to people that don't even have a social security number. That's a red flag. If I asked anyone at the Treasury what the rough guess of what percent of that number is obvious fraud, and they all guessed it's about $50 billion a year, about $1 billion a week is just straight out fraud they're undercovering. It's just crazy. And again, the judge wants to stop this, stop it so that they can't look into this corruption. And Charlie Kirk had a pretty good explanation of this here. New York Judge Paul Engelmayer just forbade all political appointees, including the Treasury Secretary, from accessing the data. This is just really crazy. And it was made in secret, this ruling, so the Trump's lawyers weren't even allowed to weigh in on the situation. The judge cites no law or logic to support this order. There isn't. It's just crazy because it defies both. And so this is what they're trying to get to vacate this order. And I think eventually one of these is going to go to the Supreme Court because it doesn't, because the fundamental question is, can a judge say that the people of the United States, we have no control over our spending? That's what they're really saying. That was part of the reason for the Revolutionary War is, taxation without representation. So our money's being spent, but this judge is saying we have no way of having any input into it. Elections don't matter. Congress can't deal with this. The president of the United States, even though we elect him, they can't look at all this money going out. And as Elon Musk says, half of this money, we have no idea because they have the fields like, okay, you're going to spend $2 million. What's the category? What are you spending it on? And just a comment, just tell us, as Elon Musk said, he's not even like saying it's good or bad at this point. If you want to say you're spending $10 million to make the frogs gay, I don't think he would have liked that, but he's not even including that. As long as you say you're spending the money to make the frogs gay, at this point, he's like, okay, well, that's valid yet. We'll get back to it, but that's valid. They're just basically, fuck you. We spend the money. We don't have to tell you how we're spending it. That's the way we run things here. I couldn't imagine like a major corporation, even a small company running your books that way. Yeah, we spend money, but who knows? Who knows? It just comes and go. We just have a drawer of cash. People come in and get it. It is just, it's hard to get your mind around. But this is where we are right now with this. And even Senator Tom Cotton, my senator from Arkansas, he actually talked about a matter that didn't pertain to Israel. I think this is one of the first. We should give him a attaboy, Tom. There's other things in Israel. Outrageous. Obama judge Paul Engelmayer didn't just bar Elon Musk and Doge from Treasury systems. He barred the Secretary of Treasury himself without citing a single law or even allowing Trump administration to appear in court. So this was like one of these kangaroo courts where he does this ruling without even having the administration there. Paul Engelmayer should be impeached. He should be removed. And, but this is some of the corruption we've had in the court system. I agree with J.D. Vance. I would just ignore the order. Like, well, fuck yourself. What are you going to do about it, Paul? That's what we need to do because it's just strictly outrageous. Some of the stuff that's still going on financially here, it just cancel. It just never ends, it seems like. Let me show you guys this. This is Elon. The Doge team just discovered that FEMA spent $59 million last week. So last week we spent $59 million to luxury hotels in New York City to house illegal immigrants. Obviously, this is a problem on many levels. The first problem is if they're illegal, they should not be housed in luxury hotels. They should be on a plane back to Venezuela, Costa Rica, or if they're criminals, to Guantanamo Bay. That's what should be happening. They shouldn't be in a luxury hotel paid by our tax dollars. Spending this money violated the law and is a gross insubordination to President Trump's executive order. Trump said they're not allowed to do this. These people are doing it anyway. The people that allowed this to happen, at the minimum, they need to be fired. They probably need to be arrested. This is money meant for American disaster relief, right? So if there's a flood, let's say in North Carolina, you want to help people out to rebuild. That's what FEMA's for. Instead, they're giving this money to illegal aliens, people that came into our country illegally. They're breaking the law, and they're allowing them to stay in a luxury hotel based on your dime. That money is spent for American disaster relief, and instead it's being spent on high-end hotels for illegal. A clawback demand will be made today to recoup those funds. Yeah, it needs to. Whoever authorized that as part of FEMA, they need to either be fired or arrested, whatever they have to do. They're in violation of the law. That is insubordination. And so this is a problem Trump had his first term, what they're really fighting. Trump in his first term, he would make some action saying, I want this to be done. And again, the blob or the deep state were like, yeah, fuck you. We're going to do what we want. That's not how a democracy can run. Otherwise, why vote, right? So we got to clean that out. And this is a problem right now that we have here. All right, let's see here. Boy, so much stuff to go through. Let me close some of my tabs. And let me just see how everything is going. And thank you. If you have some rants or power chats or stream elements, I do appreciate it. I got a super chat from Windukind. Let me bring that up. Thank you, Windukind. I do appreciate that. Let me roll up to get your super chat. Yeah, here it is right here. Windukind, what do you think of this? Trump cuts aid to South Africa over racial discrimination against the Afrikaners. I think that is wonderful. And I actually had a thing on this. This is South Africa, and this is a leader of the political party. And I hate to do the what if, but just imagine if this guy was saying this, if a white person was saying this about blacks or Jews, okay? And this is what we're funding. So let's just take a look at this.
The mayor of DA in PE is a white man. So these people, when you want to hit them hard, go after a white man. They feel a terrible pain because you have touched a white man. Not because Mashaba and Soli will not be touched. They will be touched, don't worry. But we are starting with this whiteness. We are cutting the throat of whiteness. It can't.
There's also another politician. He's part of these.
So he's talking about cutting the throat of white people and whiteness.
President of the Black First Land First political party, the BLF. And he spoke at a rally a couple of years back in which he urged the crowd to kill white people, their children, and their pets. I'm going to see if we can expand this here and play this clip for you guys. Take a look at this clip here.
For each one person that is being killed by the taxi industry, will give 5 white people. For every one black person, you kill 5 white people. You kill one of us, we kill 5 of you. You kill one of us, we kill 5 of you. You kill one of us, kill 5 of you. You kill one of us, we'll kill 5 white people. We'll kill the children, we'll kill the women, we'll kill anything that we find on our way.
So there you go. That's political party leaders literally calling for the genocide of white people to happen there. And you don't think that...
All right, so that's South Africa, and it caught the notice of Elon Musk and others. It's and so this is good because then we just got this news today. And again, I know there's some things to be black-pilled about, but Trump is what other president has actually stood up to protect white people in anything, right? And it will take a look right here. This was just breaking news. Breaking, Donald Trump officially cuts off all aid to South Africa. So this was yesterday because of the government's genocidal policies towards whites. No more aid to the communist government of South Africa. And by the way, those of us warned, I lived during the time during apartheid. I said, this is going to be a problem. If you allow them all to vote, they're going to outvote the whites. They're going to implement an African dictatorship. It's going to turn into an African shithole. And, oh, you racist. It's going to be a multi-rainbow coalition. You bigot. Turns out, yeah, I was right. And we'll see what's happening there. So hopefully they just, I would, if I was Donald Trump, I'd do what I could to get the white people out of South Africa. Those refugees I would bring in. I would cut off aid to South Africa and just let it go back to the jungle. I wouldn't really care. And if you guys, I want to give any aid money. So if you want to spend your money on the starving kids with flies on their faces, that will happen because of their policies. I don't really care. That's up to you. That's what we need to do, though. It's crazy. All right. So much stuff happening in Harley. But thank you, by the way, Widookind. Thank you very much for that super chat. That was a good lead into my story there. All right. One of the problems Trump is having to face with, he was faced in the first administration, but it's got worse, is we got to kind of clear out the subversive elements that have happened within even the armed forces. Treason. CNN is reporting that America's top military leaders, and based on this picture, I assume we're talking the DEI leaders, are meeting to formulate plans to defy orders from President Trump or from the Secretary of Defense that they don't agree with, including using active duty troops to quell protests in cities or assist with deportations. They immediately need to be court-martialed and removed. You shouldn't have women in those positions in the first place, so they should be removed anyway. But these black guys, if they're not going along with what's good for the America, they need to be removed. And this was done intentionally. This is why they put these people in power, because they thought the military was too white. They wanted people that would go against America. So these people need to be rooted out quickly. And I think this time Trump is not as naive, and they seem to have a plan to be able to clear these subversive elements out. And again, it's not all, I'm sure there's plenty of fine black officers, but the ones here look like they're treasonous and they need to be removed. And it's just a painful process, but this is a process we have to go through. It's sort of like the process the Democrats put in all these, the lowest form of people on earth into our country, poured them in as a way of biological terrorism against us. We got to correct that now. It's not easy, but we got to go through that process. And we will go through that process. So that is what's happening now. I take this with a grain of salt, right? But it was trending on Twitter, and it's hard for me to believe this is actually true. So I'm just saying this as, I'm not saying this is happening is right or accurate. But I saw multiple accounts saying that a federal whistleblower, now maybe the federal whistleblower is lying, filed a criminal complaint on February 7th alleging Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro involvement in an assassination attempt on President Donald Trump. He's not former President Donald Trump. And that's when you remember that he was shot in the ear in Pennsylvania. It also alleges that Christopher Wray conspired with Biden to hide the reports. The Butler County's DA's District Attorney's Office is currently investigating these allegations. No arrest or official charges against Shapiro have been confirmed. So we will just have to say, according to the whistleblower, the Biden regime actually worked with Shapiro to have Trump assassinated. Again, I find this hard to believe. Not that I'm a fan of Shapiro, either Shapiro. So I kind of doubt this is the case, but this was trending. We will see. But who knows? I mean, this has been an extremely corrupt government, as we've seen. Maybe they would do something like that. And as Trump knows the problem he has with the military, and I think he does know this, and he's working to clear it out, the subversive elements. And he said this here, breaking, Trump just fired the board of visitors for the Army, Air Force, Navy, and Coast Guard. Our service academies have been infiltrated by woke leftist ideologues over the last 4 years. I have ordered the immediate dismissal of the board of visitors for the Army, Air Force, Navy, and Coast Guard. We will have the strongest military in history, and we need new individuals. I think this is what happened. If you saw the military in the last 4 years, instead of focus on military stuff, they've been focusing on like Black Lives Matter, anti-whiteness, let's get women in that are weird genders. And so it's been very destructive. And so they're targeting these people that have been promoting these ideologies. And so I think Trump knows he needs to clear this out. Hopefully he will have some success on that. Then Trump is really busy. Again, it's hard for me to keep up. Just every day there's more stuff to deal with Trump. So let's take a look at this here. The penny, while at the Super Bowl, I guess, was real boring this year. It was a blowout. President Trump ends production of new pennies that cost us 2 cents each to mint. It costs us more to create a penny than the penny's worth. That's part of the problem is inflation. I used to be against this, but I guess it kind of makes sense. I was talking to Sasha about this last night. She's kind of opposed to this because she thinks it's just a way, no pun intended, but to nickel and dime us. And so anything that says $2.97, they'll just round up to $3. But I figure, I mean, it's just, what's 3 pennies really? If you save them up over the year, it could be $3. You know, I don't even know that. So it probably makes sense to get rid of it. I'm okay with that. I've changed my mind in that. Pennies just are more of an annoyance now than anything else. So yes, that is what's happening. Okay. Some more fraud that was found by Elon Musk, or at least bad practices that we need to take a look at. Just learned that Social Security database is not deduplicated, meaning you could have the same Social Security number many times over, which further enables massive fraud. Your tax dollars are being stolen. So theoretically, let's say if you're getting Social Security, you could fraud the system and have like 10 of your Social Security numbers as duplicates in there, and you get 10 Social Security checks. I hope that's not the case, but it probably is happening. So this needs to end. All right, there's a lot of minor stuff Trump did, but sometimes the minor stuff helps too. It's what we call low-hanging fruit in the business world. Just do the easy stuff. Donald Trump is signing an executive order to end the push for paper straws. Thankfully, here in Arkansas, we have plastic straws. They're nice. California have those stupid paper straws that melt and are gross. So good for Trump on that. It's just some sort of weird environmental religious thing that didn't do any good. So this is going well here. This is going well. I support that. Some of the other stuff that was being spent money on, and I do think we need to shut down because there's no reason to have this, is Voice of America. U.S. taxpayers fund far left state media. It's time to shut it down. Radio Free Europe and Voice of America, we paid for. They're state-owned. And when anything you have state-owned, there's no accountability. bunch of purple hair and blue hair activists get in there, and they start, again, originally the Voice of America and Radio Free Europe was to promote American ideals of democracy and try to put that in the Soviet Union, let's say during the 50s and 60s. Well, it's a different world now. These organizations, because they never go away, they should have gone the way at the end of the Cold War, right? If you want a media organization, start your own. The Ramsey Paul money, I'm not getting paid by the government taxpayer. Why should these assholes get paid? But they like it because it's an easy job and they get good money. They probably couldn't get a job elsewhere, right? So they like it. And they're not so much, arguing for free speech or democracy. They're mostly talking about promoting child sex changes in Hungary. And that's not what we meant it to be for. There's no reason to have this. So it's not just fixing the content. We shouldn't have state-run media anyway. That needs to be shut down. And again, that's 1 billion, over $1 billion a year we spend on that. So that needs to be shut down. And just not for the money. We don't need to pay for woke propaganda being used over it. All right, we'll do some more domestic things here. And thank you guys so much for being here. If you're new to the show, this is the Ramsey Paul Show. And I appreciate you guys being here. I love to be here. And we do this show every Monday through Thursday at 11 a.m. And Friday, we have our more informal show in the evening. I do at 8 p.m. where you can call in. So thanks for being here. We're on YouTube, Rumble, and X. All right. We had something that's funny that happened yesterday. Nature is healing. Here we go. Okay. This is a guy that you see on the right. It's a guy, he dresses like a woman, and he's a congressman, but he likes to pretend he's a woman.
The chair recognizes the gentleman from Delaware, Mr. McBride, for 5 minutes.
Mr. McBride, the gentleman from Delaware. So it is a guy from Delaware, but he likes to pretend he's a woman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. When I was elected,
So that created an issue because it wasn't a misgendering. The new transgender congressman, and again, I don't think trans is a real thing. I mean, yeah, there's men that dress up as women, but that doesn't make you a woman. Is throwing a fit over not being able to use a women's bathroom because they said, no, if you're a man, you got to use the men's room. It doesn't matter if you think you're a woman, you still have to use the men's room. I would have a dress code. If you're a man, you have to wear a suit and tie in Congress because you represent the American people. You can't wear women's clothes. Now, if he wants to go to a gay bar somewhere in Delaware or San Francisco, again, years ago, they would have their little secret fetishes, and maybe on a Saturday night, they would go in some underground bar in Castro District and dress like a woman and looking to have sex with other men, whatever. I don't condone that, but we don't need to bring that in the House of the Representatives. And his name, Tim McBride, he goes now as Sarah. So it was good that they introduced him by his proper name there. So hopefully that is going to get better. Okay, Row House 2. Of all the Super Bowl commercials, Rams, this one took the cake. Let me take a look at this. And again, I didn't see any Super Bowl commercials. So let's take a look at the Super Bowl commercial. I was hoping they were getting rid of some of the wokeness in this year's Super Bowl. It may take time, though. Let's take a look here. All right, so what we got here?
Let's settle this once and for all. Your best guy?
Girl.
Whatever. Versus our best guy.
Mm-hmm. So here we have, I guess, the villain as a white guy that looks like... He has a hairstyle that... Do boys still wear hair like this? This was when I was in high school, how boys dressed. This is their hairstyle. So the evil white jock, right? Okay, we get this.
Guy. The Brad.
Oh, not the Brad.
All right, I guess this guy's supposed to be another evil white guy named Brad. The square jaw, the Chad.
I'm Brad.
I can read.
And this is the girl boss, black female, so you know she's a good she's a good character. I've never seen this commercial. I'm just going through as I watch it. I can already pick this out with her sisters behind her. Yeah, I can read because I'm an intelligent black woman. You're just a stupid, dumb white guy. Oh, is this going to be a girl boss where a little girl kicks the ass of a big 300-pound man?
There you go. You got folded up, Brad. Get her. Okay. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, why make flag football a varsity sport? I don't understand that. Why not? Based on their logic the NFL's saying here is women are actually better than men athletically, and they can actually play tackle football better than men can. So why should we should just eliminate all women's sports and they can compete on the football team. And logically, if you just select the best players, they'll be all female, because we know watching these Hollywood commercials that women are stronger and faster and better than men. It's just the evil sexist, keep them down. Yeah, I guess that's what they're trying to push there. Yeah, Hollywood, and they've been pushing this weird fantasy. I guess it's kind of funny, but it's not funny when people really believe it. And then what happens when a girl does try to play real football, they usually end up with a serious injury. It happened, I think, University of Colorado or something like that. Or they had maybe it's a high school, but they had a female running back. She ended up becoming paralyzed. It's just not safe to put women in those situations. But a lot of times they see the Hollywood propaganda that we've seen most of my life. The trope of the 110-pound girl that's real sassy and cute, can beat up 250-pound muscle-bound man. She just kicks ass because she's a girl boss. And it's just ridiculous. And I think people have internalized that, thinking that's reality. No, that's a fantasy. That's not reality. And reality doesn't care about your fantasy. So, yeah, thank you for that. That was pretty cringy. I thought a lot of people laugh at that sort of shit now. I'm surprised that they still push that. Anyway. So, more girl boss stuff they're trying to push there. Thank you for that rant. I do appreciate that. Let's see here. The other interesting moment is really kind of fun getting through a deep dive of the government. Have someone like Elon Musk and his tech bros can do that. It's almost like the government is just, we're looking at the books, and new Trump, he's talking about Doge, suggests he believes there's a fraud in U.S. treasuries and quip that the debt may be lower than thought. So some of these treasuries may be fake. So I'm not sure if that's true or not. I wouldn't doubt it. So it looks like everything in America was based on a whole shitload of corruption. And that's where we are right now. Okay, let's see here. Before we forget the peak cancel culture, and I thought a big event happened last week when a young 19 or 20-year-old guy, he said something spicy on X about immigration. And the Wall Street Journal, they have their reporters, because the new media, they're not really journalists like in the old sense. They're more political commissars. They try to inflict a reign of terror, trying to police your speech. Oh, you can say what you want, but you have to face the consequences of it, so you can't ever get employed. They want to do that, right? The political commissars. And they sent some bitch after a kid for doing that was on the Doge team. And J.D. Vance said, hey, I don't mind. Bring the kid back. So they brought him back. That was a huge win over the cancel culture. And lest we forget how bad the cancel culture under the woke tyranny was. It still is, like in Britain and Canada. Peak cancel culture was insane. People were literally getting fired for making observations grounded in data. That is why it's important to be firmly skeptical of journalists and publishing hit jobs. Yeah, they're political commissars. Here's a guy. He was white. His name, White Thomas. No, I guess that's his name. He's a data science. He was fired from a $350,000 role. What a nice job there. Because woke bullies, because he shared data showing that blacks killed more unarmed white people than black people. Because there's this myth that white police officers, they kill more blacks than whites. That's not true. They kill more whites. And he said, well, here's the data. This is the facts. And just for sharing the facts, he got fired. And that is something interesting that's really happened. And it started with a historical event, that they don't care if what you say is true anymore. If they don't like it, they're still going to censor you. So the truth is no defense. And that is where we are on that. All right. One more craziness in the woke field. This is just shows how nuts we went. Let me just share the screen here. If you guys like Legos, I know Sasha's a big Lego person. But it now seems that Legos is problematic. So if you like Legos, you're probably transphobic. And this was from The Telegraph. I thought this was Babylon Bee, but no. Legos can be seen as anti-LGBT because bricks have male or female parts, right, that are made to mate with each other. So, you put them in together, and that's just wrong because you think a man and a woman go together naturally instead of two men fucking each other or two women, and it's anti-LGBT. So Lego is problematic. If you play with Legos, you're probably transphobic because it deals with reality. And as transgender ideology deals with fantasy, we can't hurt the feelings of the fantasy. So yeah, Legos is problematic. All right. Let me just double check here, make sure I'm caught up. Powerchats and stream elements. All right. Okay. We'll just kind of wrap things up here a little bit. I thought this was cute. It has some music. I'm going to hide the music though. Always like to end the show with just something a little more lighthearted. YouTube doesn't like the music. So this is a dog and a deer playing with each other in the fence. Oh, look at that. Now, that would scare a button. My dog would be scared of the deer. Oh. That's pretty cute. Man, they're having a good time. Look at that. Yay! Yay! Now, the dog would have fun here. There's plenty of deer here. So that was pretty cute. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining today. It was fun, and be back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Tuesday, which means not only we have the Ramsey Paul show, but in the evening we will have our roundtable. So join Substack to be part of the roundtable. It'd be a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for being here, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.